Just thought I'd give you a little wander around this border in hope that some of the new people might get a bit of inspiration from it. We're into September now, so we're at the end of the first week of September. And things are looking really, really nice in my garden at the minute. And I just thought I'd show you this border. Maybe this border will whiz through as well. But I just wanted to show you that when September comes, traditionally, especially when I was younger, most gardeners would be wrapping up the gardens and changing things and just putting it to bed basically for the winter. And I just wanted to show you, especially the newcomers and the beginners, that's not the case anymore. Grasses have had a lot to do with that. And as you know, I'm a big grass fan. And I've got quite a few in here. Now these borders, as with all the other borders at Grassy Bottom, have been in production for a couple of years now because we moved here a couple of years ago. And everything that's in the garden is what I've produced myself. Everything that's in here, like that structure there, I've built. And I just wanted to show you that September does not mean it's time to put your gardens to bed. In fact, this is when my garden really kicks in. Now that's helped along by the grasses, and we have some lovely grasses. These are the Miscanthus that I keep showing you. I've got several ones. This is a sinensis type, and it's called Ghana. And for the first year this year, it's produced me these nice little seed heads, which is quite pretty. But below them is one called Symphytrichum, and it used to be called Aster, and it's now called Symphytrichum. And that particular one is one called Monk, so it used to be known as Aster Monk. There's another good one further along, and the more purpley coloured one. I'll just wander over to it. There's a more purpley coloured one here, and it's another Symphytrichum, and that's Marina Wolkonski. And that is a real good one, a real good colour, especially in the sunshine when it gets going better. It's not at its best at the moment. There's still loads and loads of flowers to open. So again, proving that there's still plenty to be given. The Helianthus there, the sunflower looking one, is absolutely fantastic, and that does help to keep the show going because again, there's still plenty of flowers on that, and that's called Helianthus Cape Nook Star. And there's just so much going on. So September is a good time for me. We have lots going on in this garden. That Helianthus, another Helianthus there, is called Augialis, and that's been flowering for 3 months now, that. And it's fantastic, and I really have it for the size of the plant itself because I like tall perennials because they go with some of my Miscanthus and they put them back into scale. So nothing seems outbalanced. So what else is of note at the minute? Well, the grasses again. This one's called Calamagrostis abrachitrica, and it's a real nice one. If you're a flower arranger, try and get hold of that one because that's a really nice one to put into your flower arrangements. It's kind of described as being egg-shaped, but I think that's an elongated egg. But it holds well in the pot or the flower display, so it lasts for quite some time. Now, at the moment in this border, I've got a lot of yellow going on, and it's something that I'm re-looking at, re-evaluating. And the reason we've got quite a lot of yellow in here is because I'm still experimenting with this border. This border is called the boardwalk border. For obvious reasons, it sits aside the boardwalk, as does this particular one here. But this one's called the owl border because of the owl structure within it. But again, it just goes to show you that there's plenty going on. This is purpurium. That's my own skinny mini, and that's quite nice. And then we've got lots of other things going. The hosta's not looking so great. It's got a lot of slug damage, and it's not really in the right place there. But it has been doing well up to all this rainy weather we've had, and suddenly the slugs and snails have decided they're going to make a feast of that. But nevertheless, it's still doing its part. There's another one here that's hardly been touched. That's been moved from a different part of the garden. We've got another Lythrium here called Firekerzer. It means fire candle, and the colour is beautifully. Oh, actually, there's still one little bit of a flower left on there, so we can show you that one. And that's that purple one set back there. That's nice, and it's going to look really good in autumn as well. So the show will continue because that's going to go into shades of red. All the leaf and the stems will go a beautiful colour. Some of the late grasses, well, most of on most of the Miscanthus are late season grasses anyway, and this is another one. This is called Miscanthus cabaret. I've got 3 of these in here because, as I've said, it's still in production, this border, and I'm trying to set some sort of a scene, as you can see. And when they get maturer, you'll see what the idea is. So it's looking really good at the moment. There's other different things. Another eupatorium in there, a baby eupatorium. I'm trying to get Skinny Mini split up into more plants so I can either give them away or sell them on. And then there's a very similar looking, the purple plant at the back there. That's a Vernonia. And there's several different types of Vernonia. Now that one is flopping all over the place at the minute, but I did move it. Less than a week ago, no, 2 weeks ago, sorry, and I did that eupatorium at the same time, and 1 or 2 other plants. And another thing that you need to bear in mind is when you move plants, and September is a fantastic time for moving plants, because you'll be very, very successful if you move them in September. And we do it in September because things are starting to slow down a little. We're getting colder mornings, and we're also more likely to succeed, especially if we don't quite know what we're doing. We'll succeed more in moving them. If you move them at the wrong time of the year, then often you can lose them. Personally, I move them at absolutely any time of the year now because I'm really not. I'm not an amateur anymore. I'm quite skilled, so I know what to do. If you do decide you're going to move them at a sunny time, then just make sure you've got plenty of water in there. Just keep watering once you've done that, and that'll all help. So some of these plants are going to be quite big in the future. If I can point out that one there, the one at the back, not the grass, but the one at the back of the grass. And that's another Persicaria, and that's called Persicaria polymorpha. And it's a real big grower, that one. And I've got a mature specimen further up the garden. Now that's going to get quite big, so I've got to decide now whether I'm going to have a little rejiggle of that and move it around to allow something else to do better, or do I allow that one to do better? I don't know yet, because I wanted this grass to be the main star in here, but that grass has struggled. But it seems to be picking up now. But I've already got other Miscanthus in here, so I won't worry too much about it if it did struggle. But it's got an absolutely stunning seed head on it, and it is one of the best out there. It's called Miscanthus sinensis malapartus, and it's always been described as the one that others are judged by. But to be quite honest with you, there are so many good varieties now, I don't think that holds true anymore. So yeah, so I just wanted you to see that September is not the time to put your garden to bed. It's just not the time. There is so much going on. And up at Grassy Bottom, this is like my optimum time. The one thing you must watch out for this time of year, and I'm quite guilty of it, is it's full of weeds. And the problem being that some of the foxgloves have set all the seed now. Some of those are already growing. They're already away. And I need to go through and weed a bit. I'm not really bothered at the moment because I've got other jobs to worry about more than weeds. They'll sort themselves out, or I'll sort them out over time. The good idea of mass planting is that you can reduce the amount of weeds that actually come up in your garden. Another good way to do that is to heavily mulch it. As I've said before, I use a product called Plant Grow UK, which is a really, really good one. New out on the market, but it's fantastic. And heavily mulching now, really. You can go from now on in, because the rains have been, the moisture's in the soil, and it's going to keep it there. And then again in spring. So things are always developing, still not finished. I'm quite happy. I'm jiggling about a bit. We've got to wait for time to catch up because we've got some plants that need to come into maturity. And as I've said, it's a 2-year-old garden, so not everything's mature. Apart from the trees that were already in here, they were already in, so they're doing all right. But I'm waiting for some of the perennials to get where I want them. And don't forget, gardens are always a place of rejuvenation and change. And you must look to change your garden on not a regular basis, but as much as you can, really, because otherwise it becomes static, it becomes boring, and yourself, you yourself will probably not want to go in it eventually, because you'll think, well, I've seen it a million times. And I get more excited by the changes I make, because when you're making changes, it moves on into other changes. So here we've got the Rudbeckia Demii, and it's fantastic. It's done really well this year. It's had that advantage of being warmer about a month ago when we had all that hot spell, and it's actually continuing to flower now. This time last year it had gone over. I know it had gone over this time last year, but this year it's decided it's going to carry on the show, and it's a standout plant. But again, I've got a lot of yellow in this garden. The only problem that you'll find with yellow, if you're not used to putting yellow in your garden, is that yellow is the colour that attracts the eye first. So although there are lots of other colours in that bottom border, there are reds, purples, greens, what else can I see in there? Different shades of green. It's the yellow that grabs the attention, and that's why you must be careful when you put too much of it in there. And there isn't too much really, but if you start looking at it, but there are big clumps, and that's probably part of the problem, that some of the clumps are very, very tall indeed. So I shall set about this year, I've already got it in my head what I'm going to do, so we'll be making some changes, moving things around. And that's what you should be looking to do as well, move things around and change things. Don't forget, up here I've got so many different borders, and I try and create interest in each border. And if I think something's not working, I will change it. I am not going to mess about. If it's failing, it'll get changed, it'll get ripped out, put somewhere else, or it'll be put in the bin if it's just no good for this garden. What else can I say about this? Just keep adding interest. One of the biggest tips I will give you for any new gardener is try and put something of interest, man-made, into any border. If you think you've not got it right and that you're not happy with the planting, put something man-made in. Just looking at that boardwalk there is a point of interest, and it draws the eye, gives the eye somewhere to rest, and it's a good feature. So if you've got a million plants in there and you think, it's not quite working for me, do something like this, like what I've done in the owl border. This is kind of a little bit of a key piece of mine, and I tend to do this when I used to do a lot of design work. I used to put one of these into every garden, without the owl of course, and I used to put these features in because it draws the eye and it creates interest and it creates questions, and yeah, it's a point of conversation. These are just simple telegraph poles put in. They're dug into the ground. That one's over 10 foot, and then we've moved down in secrements, and they're looking really good. Other points of interest is that, so that's just another point of interest. Now, sometimes I have maybe way too many sort of points of interest, but I'm not too worried about that. Now, that tin you can see down there, that's actually been moved off the decking. I've just not put it where I want it yet. It's just sat there. So, but it's the barrel that's gaining a lot of interest. They're all grabbing the attention. So these two borders are looking fantastic, as is the rest of the garden at Grassy Bottom. The flowers are doing the things. Some flowers haven't come in, the grasses are doing their thing. And it's all adding to interest. But don't ever be afraid to make some little changes. As I've said before, I do it all the time. And I think you might agree, it's looking good. And we've got the autumn display to come yet. We've got things like this sorbus. This is called autumn spire. Will go into its autumn colours, which is bright red. It almost looks like it is on fire, and it's fantastic. All sorbuses are good for that. So mountain ashes, all are good for that. So yeah, just wanted to show you that you too can have a garden that runs on into September, October, and into November, if you choose the right plants. So look for late season perennials. Ornamental grasses all do that. Miscanthus in particular, panicums, millinnias, they all do the job later on. There are lots of other types of grasses, too numerous in this garden to go into really. But just keep looking for that. Persicarias look good. Sanguisorba down here. The one there, that's a sanguisorba, and that's looking great. So look for things of interest. And if they work, great. If they don't work, don't worry, pull them out, move them somewhere else. So hopefully that's given you a little bit of hope. If there's any questions on any of these plants you've just seen, just fire me a question over. I'm quite happy to answer them at any time. Hopefully that's given you a little bit more inspiration. Talk to you soon. Ta-da.